There is no better feeling in chess than to play a brilliant move. You crushed your opponent, it feels good, girls love you, and everybody's happy. I'm Grandmaster Igor Smirnov, and here are the 8 sure ways to play a brilliant move in your games. Coming in number 1 is Efficient Pawn Trap. Here Hikaru Nakamura is playing white against Hikaru Bot, and Hikaru played bishop g5, pinning this knight. Bot is trying to get rid of the pin, but white goes h4, known as the efficient pawn trap. Now, the idea behind this trap, if you're unfamiliar, black usually should not accept this piece sacrifice because this opens up this h file for the rook, and now the knight is attacked. Once the knight moves away, you bring the queen, line up against the black king, and checkmate it on the h7 or h8 square on the next turn. In the game, Bot played pawn to a5, and now Hikaru goes queen e2, and that is a brilliant move, surprisingly. So first off, what is a brilliant move? Well, traditionally, it is a sudden and beautiful move that helps you to win a game. But nowadays, Chess.com's review algorithm has to use data science and some specific things to track brilliant moves. Therefore, in a nutshell, they define it as a good piece sacrifice, and so computer thinks that queen e2 is a good piece sacrifice because this bishop is left undefended. Anyways, black goes d6, and now white castles queenside, which got another brilliant move mark. That's quite funny. Black played c6, and now bishop a2, yet another brilliancy. Now, it's actually pretty funny that Hikaru pulled off 10 brilliant moves in this game. And traditionally in chess, getting a brilliant move is something very rare. I mean, of course, unless you're a Gotham Chess subscriber. So here, getting 10 brilliant moves in one game is pretty crazy. Now, f4 is still a brilliant move for the same reason that this bishop on g5 is still sacrificed. Now, black goes bishop g4, here knight f3. Somehow Hikaru got an exclamation mark for this move as well. I don't know, it looks like Chess.com favors Hikaru somehow. It's a very standard move. Anyways, queen e7, and after the trade, queen e3, yet another brilliancy. Why? Because of the very same sacrifice. That's why I'm saying that efficient pawn trap can be really efficient if you want to get those brilliant moves. Now after bishop e6, trade, somehow he didn't get a brilliant move for this one, and now knight takes e5, yet another brilliancy. White is just capturing a pawn, still giving up this bishop, and now Hikaru got a winning position. Now this fork is coming, and he's up a pawn, and he won the game later. Now we know that a brilliant move basically is just a good piece sacrifice that increases your chances of winning, which brings us to the next conclusion. What are the most common scenarios when it's good for you to sacrifice a piece? It is when you open up the position around your opponent's king in order to checkmate it later. With that in mind, it brings us to the second method, a castling breakdown. Here in this position, white played queen to c1, forming this battery against this h6 pawn, aiming to sacrifice a bishop right there, and voila, they got a brilliant move. After the bishop was accepted, queen takes, and now it threatens queen to h7 checkmate. You can see how effective it is to sacrifice a piece against those pawns that shield your opponent's king. Black was trying to cover, but after the trade, white went knight g5, opening up the rook, also hitting the bishop, and then after bishop g6, black is still trying to cover up the king with this bishop, and now white utilizes the same idea basically once again, playing rook to f6, aiming to sacrifice the rook against this final defender. Black played bishop e7, kind of encouraging white to do that, and then rook takes g6, once again got 2 exclamation marks. Now, it's also worth mentioning that Chess.com is more lenient to lower rated players, and they give them exclamation marks more easily, even if the move is relatively obvious, such as in this case, after pawn takes, pretty clear that these moves would win the game. For example, queen h7 is a checkmate right away. So, which means that if you're a higher rated player, you're to some extent discriminated. It's harder for you to get a brilliant move from Chess.com. But if they find out that you also play on lead chess, they're going to disregard your brilliant moves altogether. Might even turn them into blunders. An additional condition for a brilliant move is that it basically should change the situation drastically. You should not be completely winning regardless of whether you found the move or not. In this position it was white to move, and we can see that the situation is quite shaky for white. The rook is hitting this bishop. It cannot easily walk away because it also has to guard this knight, maybe also this pawn. The pawn on e7 is also somewhat under the attack. Therefore, if white can't find the right move right here, he's quite likely even to lose the game. In the game, white found the right move, it's bishop to f7, which brings us to the next idea. If you have an advanced passed pawn, which is very close to the square of promotion, it makes sense for you to try to sacrifice material to be sure that this pawn gets promoted and you win the game. Of course, there could be some additional conditions for a brilliant move. For example, if your opponent crushed his computer or started cursing, you have likely played a brilliant move. It is much easier to play brilliant moves when you play attacking chess, when you play attacking aggressive openings, gambits, and use opening traps. Such as in this case, white is playing a Tennyson gambit and black falls right into it. This sacrifice, knight takes f7 followed by bishop takes g6. White even got two brilliant moves right here, even though it's part of the same plan. This is a discovered attack of the queen. Due to the check, black has to recapture, but now queen takes d8 wins the game, even though for whatever reason they agreed to a draw. Either way, sometimes you win the game just because you execute the trap that you knew beforehand. But even if that's not the case, usually in such positions, let me take it back a couple moves, when you have like advanced pieces and you are putting pressure, generally even without this trap, there is a chance that you can keep going forward and sooner or later there will be a favorable sacrifice. And of course, if you want to know the best opening traps and gambits, there is a really well-known coach that can help. The next method is, I know you guys love a lot. Here in this position it was white to move, we can see opposite side castles, therefore both sides are trying to attack and expand. Here white played g6, makes sense, trying to open up the position around the king. Black traded, now white recaptured, and wait a second, how come this most natural recapture turned out to be a brilliant move? Well, it turns out that this recapture actually blunders this knight on f3. And computer, chess.com's engine, evaluates that it was a really great sacrifice, because after rook takes f3, rook takes h7, now we got this h-file attack and white is going to win the game quickly. Now it could very well be that white simply blundered the fact that after g6 and the f-file gets opened, this knight on f3 is going to be lost, but either way, white got lucky enough to win the game. And if you want to increase the probability of a lucky blunder, you just have to blunder more often. Obviously it helps if you know common tactical motifs. In this game white pulled off a really stunning tactic, knight takes e5, sacrificing both this bishop and the queen on d1, and it turns out that after bishop takes d1 there's bishop takes f7 check, and after king to e7 white finishes the game with this unexpected checkmate. Now, it was really hard for white to find this combination, but he most probably just knew Legal's checkmate pattern, which made it possible for him to find it in this game, even though with the black's knight on f6, it makes it harder for white to execute, which makes it even more beautiful. And here's a little tactical challenge for you. It is white to move, and if you can find a winning move for white, please write it down in comments below. While there are a lot of tactical motifs, this one is really common and you can use it frequently. It's called the Greek gift sacrifice, and you probably have seen it before, where you sacrifice a bishop. Basically, it's similar to castling breakdown, because you still sacrifice your piece against one of those pawns of his castling, and then you bring a knight into the attack with a tempo. The king has to move, and now queen h5 threatens a checkmate, and you win the game. The next idea is going to catch your opponents by surprise. In most cases, a sacrifice assumes that you're moving a piece and are giving it away. However, sometimes you can use another approach. In this game, black just played rook to e4 and attacked this bishop on e3 twice. Black most probably expected the bishop to move or to be defended somehow, but instead white ignored it completely and just created his own counter threat, known as a counter-attack, and after the bishop was captured, they simply started attacking black's king and checkmated it. If you want to know a really good and aggressive chess opening that will make finding those combinations easy for you, check out this video right there, and if you really want to bring your chess to the next level, check out this free masterclass up there.